Hello, I'm Frances from Somerset Libraries, and today I'm going to tell you about Danny Dog and the Dizzy Dancing. We're going to hear lots of words which start with a D and have a D sound. There was once a boy called Donald, and he had a dear little dog called Danny. This is Danny. He was just a small puppy, and he was always dashing about when he wasn't chewing slippers or digging up the delphiniums in the garden. He especially loved dizzy dancing. He would chase round and round in circles, squashing all the daisies and dandelions in the lawn while trying to catch his tail. The ducks in the park made him even more excited. Dotty Duck lived on the pond with her best friend Dilly. Dotty was rather dumpy and Dilly was a bit tipsy. Dotty had a brother called Dylan. He loved playing duck dodgems on the big lake with some of the other ducks and drakes. Dotty and Dilly thought he was daft. They liked to spend dreamy days dabbling in the shallow water, dipping their heads down to hunt for wriggly worms and good things to eat. They didn't mind how dirty the worms were. They were always delicious. One day, Donald took Danny to the park, where they said hello to Delilah the Dalmatian, Dixie the Dachshund, Dozy the Doberman, Dora the Dorky, and all sorts of other doggy friends. Donald was friends with Dora's mistress, Doris, but Danny was bored by their chit-chat, and he managed to slip out of his collar without Donald noticing. He disappeared off to the pond. There he was distracted by the dragonflies drifting over the water. He hoped he might be able to catch one. Danny had just buried a new bone from the butcher at home in the garden, and he was in a state of such excitement that he was even more daring than usual, and his dancing was even more dizzy. He whirled and whizzed round and round, and his dizzy-wizzy dancing became quite dangerous. He didn't know how slippery the muddy bank of the pond was. Suddenly there was a huge splash, as quite by mistake he came slithering and sliding into the pond. What a dizzy disaster! Dotty and Dilly were on the other side of the pond, making some of the mud dumplings stuffed with worms that they dined on for special treats, served up with slimy slug stew. They heard unusual yelping and spluttering and gurgling sounds. Dotty looked at Dilly, and Dilly looked at Dotty. Sometimes they were frightened of dogs, but Danny was such a dear little puppy, they didn't need to think twice. Dotty and Dilly paddled over at top speed, stretched out their wings towards each other, and made a special rescue raft. They dragged Danny up with their beaks, and soon he was aboard, afloat on a big feather bed. He was very breathless, but blissfully happy to be safe. Dotty and Dilly had to remind him not to shake himself dry until they had landed him safely ashore. Then he was able to shake and dizzy dance as much as he liked, at a safe distance under the trees. When he felt better, he did some digging behind one of the trees where Donald couldn't see him. Donald never guessed what he'd been up to, and Danny dug up 20 delicious worms as a thank you present for Dotty and Dilly. They all became great friends, and whenever Donald and Danny came to give leftover bread to the ducks, Danny always saved the best bits for Dotty and Dilly and popped a muddy worm or two inside whenever he could as a special treat. That was Danny the dog, Dotty and Dilly the ducks, and the dizzy dancing. Can you say it? That was Danny the dog, Dotty and Dilly the ducks, and the dizzy dancing. That was Danny the dog, Dotty and Dilly the ducks, and the dizzy dancing. Keep practicing. We do hope you enjoyed listening today. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram and share with friends and family. Thank you. Goodbye.